Michal Ignatowicz. I work as Wushu coach and judge. Some of you may also know me as International Wushu Federation technical committee member. Today I would like to provide you with some information about Chen style Taijiquan. Taijiquan consists of many routines. Some of them are very long, and for this reason not very convenient to use in competition, mostly due to time limitations. To solve this problem, compulsory and training routines have been created. They are much shorter, with less repetitions, and are much more convenient to use in competition and during training sessions. Today I would like to present one of those shorter routines that you may find quite useful in your training. 18 Techniques Chen style Taijiquan routine has been compiled by Mr. Chen, one of the very well-known and respected Taijiquan teachers of today. Most of techniques from this routine come from Laojia, the old frame of Chen style. Some of them, however, you may also find in 56 compulsory competition routine. Some you will find in new Chen style standardized competition routine. That is a mixture of Xinjia and Laojia, all the new frame of Chen style. All of the techniques I'm going to discuss you may also find in recently published IWUF teaching materials. I hope you've seen these videos already. If not, please visit IWUF website and IWUF YouTube channel Wushu TV and check them out. Every Wushu athlete and practitioner has his own personal style. If you are an athlete and you are still looking for your own personal, unique style, it is probably a good idea to follow Wu Yanan, Zhan Qinxing, Wang Erping, Chen Zhenglei, your teacher and others, and learn from their performances. If you like my personal style, you can follow me as well. Unless we don't break the rules and regulations in competition, it is all correct. It only depends on what you like the most, what serves you the most, and how you understand certain technique, and of course, what is the best choice for the event you like to attend. Today's presentation is divided into several different parts. In the first part, I will demonstrate the complete set of 18 techniques Chen style Taijiquan routine. After, I will go through every single technique one by one. I will discuss common problems, deduction criteria regarding both A and B group of requirements from IWUF competition rules. After, I will show application of every technique. And finally, I will give you some tips you may find useful in competition and your training. So, let's watch the complete presentation of 18 techniques Chen style Taijiquan routine. People have different body types, motor skills, different gender, age. Nervous system of every human is unique as well. As we can see here, even not a very complex technique or stance may look a bit different depending on who performs it. To be able to compete, however, all the athletes must follow the same set of rules. These rules are divided into two main categories: objective, measurable criteria of evaluation, A and C groups of requirements, and subjective, non-measurable criteria of evaluation, B group of requirements. Combination of these two elements says a lot about our level and decides about our result in competition. Criteria from Group A we simply must fulfill according to the book, paying attention to all the details. Criteria from Group B we can meet in many ways, and this is the part where we can show our own unique abilities and make our performance distinctive. While core elements from A group should remain unchanged, details like exact width of the stance, squat's depth, exact angle and position of hands, etc. are adjustable, as long as they follow the A group criteria from the competition rules. But what details can we adjust and to what extent? Are there any limitations, or the only criterion is our subjective, aesthetical preference? If we perform a movement that is our own creation, which does not refer to any historical wushu technique, we are free to perform it any way we prefer. The only criteria of evaluation will be aesthetics and sometimes a gymnastic difficulty, which our creation might demonstrate. However, if we perform a historical, or we might say traditional wushu technique, the most important factor that tells us about how we can adjust those details is combat application of the technique. I hope you enjoyed the demonstration. And now, let's go through every single technique one by one. Technique number 1, Taijiquan-Technique. In this technique, minimal technical requirements concern palm shape, hand technique, body posture and footwork. Excluding special techniques throughout the whole routine, palm fingers must be separated and not straight, center of the palm must be drawn in and rounded. Posture must be well balanced and optimized, allowing us to move and apply techniques efficiently without unnecessary tension. Elbows must be lowered, arms not straight, armpit open. Knee and toes of both legs must be aligned while stepping. Every instance of not meeting these minimal requirements will result in deduction of 0.1 point. Detailed description you will find in the rules, in the table describing A group deduction criteria. Historically, wushu routines have been designed as training tools to learn and master attack, defense, chain reflexes, and motor skills. Some of them were meant simply to impress the audience during performance. Some of old routines resemble old myths and even some magical practices of the past. But what makes wushu a martial art? What makes a technique a wushu technique? In my opinion, it is the application. Looking from this perspective, we cannot say we know a certain technique unless we are able to use it effectively in combat. So let's watch the application of the first technique. In practice, this technique, just as any effective attack or defense, must be executed rapidly to be surprising to the opponent. We simply follow all the requirements from the routine, but the pulling down motion should be fast, well connected with the rapid drop of the whole body. As in the routine, the stomp is not required, but it adds lots of force to your technique. This technique includes the advancing step, shangbu, that might be executed with a heel slide called chubu or without it, as a simple forward step. It is much more difficult to execute a perfect chubu on a new carpet during competition, and it requires a lot of practice. It is very good to master this way of execution and demonstrate it to the judges, but at the same time we should remember that it is just one of the options while performing this technique. In historical routines, the hammer punch can be done with or without issuing force. As with chubu, it is much more difficult to execute it with a strong force, or fa li, but it is only one of the possible options. Every fighting technique has lots of variants, and this counter also is one of the many options we have here. We dodge or slip the first attack, in this case straight left punch, to block the second attack, which in this case is straight right. Our left leg sweeps left foot of the attacker. Same time we press his left arm down and to our right. This attack uses our weight as well as force we generate with our hands. Left hand grabs opponent's neck, pulls it down and towards us. Right hand in a swinging motion attacks groin area, stomach, or even face if we get lucky. Attack should be well coordinated with our steps. This way it is stronger and more difficult to block. This attack is a variation of hammer fist, quite a common technique in a ground and pound situation. Left hand grabs opponent's neck and pulls it down. Right hand goes up and then down, together with our whole body mass, and a stomp of our right foot. In this technique we might perform the same Chubu as in Jingang Dao Dui, or Shangbu, depending on what we prefer. Again, Chubu is more demanding physically and sometimes might be a good choice in competition. As the attacker grabs our jacket, we step forward outside his leading leg, or into his central line. The arm lock can be done in several ways. Here we don't finish the technique, but when the opponent is immobilized, we shove him away. It is also a good opportunity to sweep his leading leg. In this technique, first we prepare to pull, moving our hands forwards, up and to the right. Then we pull towards us and down. We turn to our left and push with both hands to our front right and down, supporting this technique with a step and our body mass. In the second part of this technique we should remember that the backward-forward motion as well as twist are much more important and give us much more force than simply going up and down. After grabbing opponent's neck and wrist or forearm, we rapidly drop our center of gravity, same time pulling him towards us and down, twisting to our left. The more sudden, explosive and forceful our action is, the better effect. First variant showed here included pulling and twisting motion. The second variant includes pulling first and then pushing forwards. After a pull, it may also include cow, shoulder butt, followed by a push. To make it more effective, we may add a short sweep as well. This technique includes a shoulder butt, elbow jab and attack with our forearm. All the three elements should be represented here and well defined. It is never easy to grab opponent's hand, especially while he's throwing a punch. However, instead of grabbing, we may block his hand, or even ignore it, hold our guard and hit him with our left hand. As we can see here, our left hand goes in an arc, from inside to outside, and from up to down. If we connect it well with stepping in, this attack may be quite powerful. In a shorter distance, another option is to use our elbow. In this case, our left hand goes horizontal in an arc, from inside to outside. It may also go from up to down, depending on the situation. In this technique, going from low to high position and same time twisting to the right, with the right hand pushing outside, are most important. Our right foot works as a center of our rotation, so it should be well rooted and stable. As this routine is not compulsory or standardized, There is also another version of the Danbian by Haliang-Chi transition, in which hands cross a bit earlier and the shubu is executed with left leg extended more to the front. This technique requires short distance to control the opponent. It helps when he is in a forward motion with his left foot in front. After making a step, we block his left leg with our right leg and step forward with our left leg, pushing his torso in a twisting motion outside and to our right. In the second variant, during the twist, we attack opponent's head with our elbow. In the second part of the technique, force is directed forwards and to our left, and while our left leg works as support, the right leg is pushing us forwards to add our body weight to the technique. Transition into Xiexing may include many different techniques. Typically, it starts with two blocks, one to the left, another to the right, when we may succeed to grab one of the opponent's hands. These blocks may be not very effective unless we train them a lot, but this applies to any technique. This kind of armbar is widely used in martial arts, and it is definitely better to grab the hand of our opponent when he is not punching. We apply the armbar with our forearm, straightening the opponent's elbow and pushing his hand to our right and down. It is important to include our whole body mass into this technique. Before Xiexing, we should grab our opponent's right hand, step in and block his left leg with our left hand. Then, with a twist, we throw him down. Rather than leaning forwards, we move slightly to our left leg, bring hands together and withdraw to the rear, turning right. As in every Shubu, the knee of our supporting leg should be aligned with the foot to make our position strong and stable. This attack is based on the leverage we create between our hands and shoulder. First, shoot forward to grab opponent's leg. We place both hands next to his ankle as low as possible and our shoulder slightly above his knee, forming a leg lock. Then we rapidly pull with both hands and press with our left shoulder and whole body. Another variant of this technique does not include the shoulder press. We pull opponent's leg close to the ground and then up, moving back and turning to our right. Here we can perform advancing steps similar to Yang-style Shangbu, or like in this case, walk slightly to the left and right without twisting our feet too much. Some variants prefer to coordinate steps and hand techniques like Yang-style Low Xiaobu as well, but here we advance differently, with the same hand and leg moving forwards in unison. Here we grab opponent's arm and rapidly pull it towards us, same time pressing down and twisting to the right. This technique must be sudden and explosive to work. Our left hand blocks opponent's right hand, and we hit his torso with right hand, same time stepping forwards. There are many ways of stepping in. We may make just one step, half step, or two full steps. It depends on the distance to the opponent and what technique we want to throw next. This technique is usually executed with full force and speed, but in some cases it may depend on our approach to a certain routine. While our right hand is punching, the opposite hand goes back, together with a twist of our body. Our feet should pivot on the ground and our right leg goes from bent to straight, supporting the punch. In my opinion, straight right punch is one of the best attacks in Chen style Taijiquan. Simple and powerful, may be very effective when executed in an explosive way. In this variant, we target our opponent's hands first to get rid of the grip. Our hands go up and hit or pull down, together with a rapid drop of our whole body. Left hand grabs our opponent's torso, hand or simply moves backwards, while our right hand attacks. The more body weight we put into this attack and the more we twist while punching, the better. Here, the twist should be well synchronized with our handwork. First we make a step with our left leg, we turn and then we attack with our right hand. The final position is a variation of shubu, so our left heel should be lifted to support the rotation. We block attacker's left hand, grabbing it and placing it tightly under our elbow. Same time we twist and pull him towards us. After making a step with our left leg, we hit his head with our forearm or elbow. This technique may be followed by many throws, for example xiexing or a sweep, for instance shuangshou bailian. Side kick has many elements that deserve a separate video. Some of the most important points are: knee of the kicking leg should be lifted and kept high before and after the kick, our hips should rotate, and our force should be pointed towards our opponent with the supporting foot rotation. It is rather impossible to proceed a perfect, powerful technique without any external resistance, so especially here I recommend to train with a sandbag to improve this technique. There are several variants of this technique, and the main difference is not the kick itself but the hand shape. During the kick we might form two fists or kick with hands open, and it simply depends on which part of the opponent's body we prefer to hit, head or neck. In the original routine we perform this kick with two fists, but in this video I show both versions. In this technique we might use a side kick or a front kick, depending on the attack we counter. It is useful against any kick to the body, but works best after a front kick. We grab opponent's left leg, placing it on our forearm and locking it with our left hand. Then we may attack his head with a hammer fist, palm, forearm, or even elbow if he tries to get closer, or if we decide to pull him towards us. We may also attack his supporting leg with a low kick, in this case side kick to the knee. In Yu transwo, after the twisting step or jump, comes the body turn, that should be executed as well as the previous parts of the technique. It may be done slow, but with a visible intention of pulling and pushing, and in a well-rooted, stable position. Yu transwo includes lots of techniques, and in IWF teaching materials it is divided into three shorter parts: Shuangzhengjiao, Cedeng, Yu transwo. In Shuangzhengjiao we pull opponent's arm up, executing an arm lock. We might just concentrate on this one technique, and it is sometimes all we need. We grab opponent's wrist or his palm or fingers, and then we straighten his elbow to push it forcefully up. After, we hit the crook of his elbow with our hand, together with a stomp. Finally, we throw the side kick or front kick, depending on the version of this routine, targeting our opponent's torso. After the set down, we perform a rapid step forward with a twist, which in compulsory routines is called Yunyu transfer, same as the whole set of these three techniques here. First we step with our right leg. We grab our opponent's right hand and make another step to grab his torso with our left hand, that forms a hook. We twist and make two steps with our left and right leg, to first pull the opponent to us and then to push him to his right and down. It is important to pull his right arm and synchronize it with our steps and rotation. Here the main difficulty might be proper coordination between steps and handwork. We start with our hands, we make a step, and then our hands finish the technique. It is all connected with the body turn and the wide stance, which is quite challenging to coordinate. This technique may be executed without a step, with a step, or as in this routine, with a cross step. We break our opponent's grip by turning our hand inside and up, in a swinging motion. Then we rapidly move our hand to the opposite side, pulling him and twisting to break his grip. If we manage to grab his wrist, it is a good opportunity to step in and strike. After the turn, while executing a sweep, our foot slides on the ground, goes inside from right to left, then up and outside to perform a slap. This might be quite misleading, but it is not the slap that is the most important part here. After the leg swing, we bend our knee, and if we decide to stay in this position, we form Tishiduli, with our knee lifted above horizontal level. This technique is quite effective if the opponent is advancing, trying to shorten the distance to grab us or to punch. In this variation, we sweep or kick his leg to throw him out of balance, same time pushing his head or torso in the opposite direction, creating a leverage. It is important to sweep as low as possible and coordinate our attack with our opponent stepping forwards. After the kick, we slide to the back, pulling with our hands. We form two fists and hit forward, with the body turned from right to the front, forming Kung Bu. In this technique, as in many others, the most important part is timing. We grab our opponent's jacket and we pull him towards us. When he starts to resist, we punch him with both hands in the chest. It can be performed with a push, or, in the shorter variant, just as a double punch. This Jinggang Dao Dui is a shorter version of the second technique of this routine. In Chen style routines, it always is used right after the opening and right before closing, which tells us how important this technique is in Chen style fighting strategy. It is the second most popular Chen style technique after the stride punch. In this application, we grab opponent's hand to strike his body with our elbow. We might hold our right hand up or down, depending on the size of the opponent and our preference. I hope you enjoyed today's lesson. If you know a bit more about Chen style, or if you have some new questions to ask, I consider my mission accomplished. Thank you very much for your attention, and see you next time.